The cold emptiness of space was quiet, as always. Stars shone like tiny diamonds scattered across a dark, endless ocean. But deep inside the command room of the Odyssey, Captain Jace stared at the blinking red light on the console. It was different. This time, a signal no one wanted to hear. The signal had come from the edge of human space, from a place no one dared to go. Scientists called it the Dark Zone, a silent area where ships vanished and stories were whispered, but never confirmed. But the signal was clear. It was a distress call that no one wanted to listen. Command ignored it. The council said it was a hoax. Other captains laughed. But Jace felt something deep in his chest, a pull he couldn't explain. The signal was faint. But there was something human about it. Jace sat alone in his small cabin, staring at the signal on the screen. It was repeating over and over, a series of strange clicks and whistles. Then, a broken voice speaking in English. It said only one sentence before fading out. Help us alone. He wiped his sweaty hands on his pants. Everyone had told him to forget it. He had a mission with his squadron scheduled next week. But Jace knew the signal was real. And someone was in trouble. The next day, he walked into the briefing room. The other officers were there, sitting around the big table, looking serious and tired. The commander spoke first. Captain Jace, he said, you're ordered to prepare for the next mission. The council will not approve any side operations. He looked at Jace with a firm face. No distractions. Jace nodded but didn't speak. He knew what he had to do. Later that night, he went back to his quarters and sent a private message to an old friend, an engineer named Mara, who worked at the spaceport. Mara, he wrote, I need a ship. Something fast, small, and quiet. Within an hour, Mara replied, you're crazy. But I owe you one. Meet me in Hangar 7, Jace's. Heart beat faster. The signal was getting stronger. It was as if someone or something wanted him to come. The next morning, under the cover of darkness, Jace met Mara in the hangar. She was waiting beside a small, sleek ship that looked more like a racing car than a spaceship. It was fast. Yes, but also tough. Mara smiled. Your own little ghost, she said. No one will see you coming. Jace nodded, climbing into the pilot's seat. He took one last look at the stars through the hangar roof and pushed the throttle forward. The ship roared to life, and in minutes, they were speeding away from the space station, heading toward the dark zone. The journey was silent except for the hum of the engines. Jace stared at the star map, watching the dots disappear behind them. The signal was now a constant beep in his ears, always near, always calling. 2 days later, the ship approached the source of the signal. It was a planet metallic and dark, almost invisible against the black sky. It looked like a fortress, built by machines long forgotten. Jace felt a cold shiver down his spine. He adjusted the controls and began to scan the surface. There were no signs of life, no movement. But the distress signal was getting stronger. Suddenly, alarms blared in the cockpit. The ship shook violently. An invisible force had grabbed them like the planet itself was pulling the ship inside. Jace struggled with the controls, fighting the pull. The ship's shields flickered as they crossed an invisible barrier. Outside, the stars disappeared. The ship was now inside the fortress. He tried to send a message to the station. Nothing. The console screen went black. Jace's breath caught in his throat. Then, silence. Inside the fortress, dark corridors stretched endlessly. Lights flickered. Above, casting long shadows on the walls. The air smelled cold and sharp, like metal and rust. Jace, he stepped out of his ship, his boots echoing on the hard floor. He felt like an intruder in a place that had been waiting for years, maybe centuries, for someone to come. He turned on his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing strange symbols etched on the walls. They glowed faintly, like ancient warnings. Jace moved carefully, every step alert. The silence was heavy, almost alive. Then suddenly, the ground beneath him vibrated from the walls. Small panels slid open. Mechanical arms reached out, scanning him. The fortress was waking up. Jace raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. But the machines didn't stop. They followed him, learning. He found a room with a console, dusty and old, but still working. On the screen, a message appeared. You are not the first. But you may be the last. Jace's heart pounded. The message was a warning. Or a threat. He sat down and tried to respond, sending his own message back. Who are you? What do you want? No reply. Hours passed. The fortress was silent again, except for the soft hum of machines. Jace knew he was alone, or was he? Suddenly, he heard a whisper, a voice so soft it could have been the wind. Help us. He turned quickly. Nothing. The whisper came again, closer this time. Help us. Jace grabbed his radio and called out. Is anyone there? Show yourself. No answer. He moved deeper into the fortress. The halls twisted and turned, making it hard to find his way. Then, a door opened by itself. Inside was a small room. On the floor lay a strange object, a small device, glowing faintly. Jace picked it up. It was a communicator. And on its screen, a photo. A group of people, humans, smiling. He recognized one face instantly. It was him. Or someone just like him. His mind raced. How was this possible? The communicator crackled, and a broken voice spoke again. They left us. Jace's eyes widened. The signal was real. The people in the photo were real. And they were trapped. He looked at the device, then at the endless corridors outside. His mission was clear. He had to find the others, even if it meant walking deeper into the fortress alone. The metal doors creaked shut behind Captain Jace, locking him inside the cold, dark room. His heart raced. The small device in his hand still glowed softly, a faint blue light in the shadows. He took a deep breath. The fortress was no longer just a building. It was alive. Jace's boots echoed as he stepped out into a long hallway. The walls shifted, slowly, moving like they had a mind of their own. Strange symbols flashed on the panels, patterns that seemed to watch him. He reached for his radio and called the space station. Odyssey, this is Jace. Do you read me? Static answered. Then silence. He was alone. Deeper inside the fortress, the air grew colder, the silence heavier. Every step Jace took felt like he was waking something. Machines stirred in the shadows. Lights flickered, revealing shapes, alien machines, some small and quick, others tall and slow. Jace stopped. One of the machines turned towards him. It had no face, just a smooth, shiny surface. It moved slowly, as if curious. Jace raised his hands. I'm not a threat. The machine beeped softly. It seemed to understand. It began to follow him. Jace didn't know if it was friend or enemy, but he needed answers. He moved quickly down a twisting corridor, the machine at his side. Suddenly, he saw a door with a bright red light above it. The symbols around the door glowed stronger. He pushed the heavy door open. Inside was a room filled with screens and strange technology. Dust covered the control panels, but some screens flickered to life as he entered. On one screen, he saw a map of the fortress, a giant maze of corridors and rooms. A blinking red dot moved slowly through the map. It was following him. Another screen showed images, faces, places, things he could not understand. But then, one image stopped him cold. It was a photograph, a group of humans. Soldiers, all wearing old uniforms. Their faces were tired but brave. And in the center, a man who looked exactly like Jace. Jace's hand trembled. The photo was old, maybe decades. How could it be him? He pressed a button, and a message appeared on the screen. You are not the first here. But you may be the last. Jace's mind raced. Who had sent the message? And what had happened to the others? Suddenly, a noise behind him made Jace spin around. From the shadows, a figure emerged. It was a man, but pale, weak, and dressed in torn clothes. His eyes were filled with fear. "Help me," the man whispered. "Please." Jace rushed forward. "Who are you? How did you get here?" The man's lips trembled. "I'm a survivor, like you. But they left me behind." Jace's heart ached. The fortress was a trap, and many had fallen into it before. The survivor coughed, then spoke again. "They watch us. Learn from us. They never let us leave." Jace looked around. The machines had stopped following him, but he felt their eyes everywhere. "We need to find a way out," Jace said firmly. The man shook his head. "There's no way out, only deeper." Jace clenched his fists. He refused to believe that. He glanced at the glowing communicator in his hand. Suddenly, the fortress trembled. Walls shifted. Lights flashed. The floor beneath them vibrated as if the fortress was waking up from a long sleep. Jace grabbed the survivor's arm. "We have to move, now." Together, they ran through the twisting corridors. The fortress seemed to change with every step. Passages closed, new doors opened. They reached a large hall with a high ceiling. At the center stood a massive machine. It looked like a giant heart made of metal and light, pulsing slowly. Jace stared in awe. The machine was alive. It was the fortress itself. The survivor whispered, "This is the core. It controls everything." Jace approached cautiously. The heart pulsed faster as he got closer. Then, a voice spoke inside his head. "You are here because you have pain, because you fight." Jace staggered. The voice was calm but powerful. "Who are you?" He asked aloud. "I am the fortress. I remember all who have come before you." Jace's mind filled with images, faces of soldiers lost and broken, battles fought and lost, hopes crushed. "I was built to protect, to fight, but I am tired." Jace swallowed hard. The fortress was not a simple machine. It was a being with memories, emotions. "Why did you send the signal?" Jace asked. "Because I hoped someone would come. Someone like you." The survivor looked at Jace with new hope. "Maybe he can help us," he said weakly. Jace nodded. He knew the journey would be dangerous, but he could not turn back now. The fortress was waking up, and it wanted him. The corridors twisted and turned endlessly. Captain Jace moved carefully, his boots echoing in the cold metal halls. The fortress seemed to breathe around him, walls pulsing with faint blue light, strange symbols glowing softly. The small machine that had followed him before stayed close, moving silently. It didn't attack, only watch. Jace, he felt a chill crawl up his spine. Suddenly, a soft whisper filled the air. It was almost too quiet to hear. "Help us." Jace stopped. The voice sounded human, but far away. He turned slowly, shining his flashlight into the darkness. Nothing. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "Help us." He gripped his radio tightly and spoke. "Who's there? Show yourself." No answer. Jace moved forward, every sense alert. The fortress was alive, but its secrets were hidden deep. As he walked, the whispers grew louder. But sometimes the voice changed. Sometimes it sounded like a woman, sometimes a child, sometimes a man. The voices filled the halls, echoing around him. Jace realized the voices were coming from the walls themselves, from the metal. He stopped at a wall panel. Suddenly, it slid open, revealing a small chamber filled with old equipment. Inside was a screen flickering weakly. On the screen, a message appeared. "You are not alone. We are trapped." Jace's heart pounded. Trapped? Who were they? He pressed a button to respond. "Who are you? Where are you?" The screen flickered again, then showed a live video feed. Face appeared. It was a woman, her eyes wide with fear. "We are survivors," she said, "from the ship Ardent. We crashed here years ago." Jace's mind raced. The Ardent was a lost ship. Many believed it had been destroyed. "We have been trapped in the fortress ever since. The machines keep us prisoner." Jace looked around nervously. The small machine beside him beeped softly, as if agreeing. "We tried to escape," the woman continued, "but the fortress changes. It traps us in rooms that never end. Some of us have lost their minds." Jace's stomach twisted. He knew the feeling of being alone, trapped with no hope. He asked, "Can you help me find a way out?" The woman shook her head. "No, the fortress controls everything. But maybe you are different." Suddenly, the video cut out. Jace's radio crackled. A voice, low and distorted, whispered, "You don't belong here." Jace spun around. The hallway was empty. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. He pressed forward, deeper into the fortress. The whispers grew louder, overlapping. Suddenly, the small machine next to him changed. Its smooth surface opened like a flower, revealing a glowing core. It projected a map in the air, a map of the fortress's interior. Jace saw the blinking dot moving slowly through the maze of corridors. It was leading him somewhere. He followed the dot. The fortress shifted again. Walls moved, ceilings lowered. The path became narrower. Jace's breath came fast. He felt like the fortress was testing him. At last, the dot stopped at a large steel door. It was covered with symbols that glowed bright blue. Jace pushed the door open. Inside was a large chamber filled with strange machines, glowing with soft light. In the center lay a body, a man, frozen in some kind of crystal. Jace stepped closer. The man's face was peaceful, but his eyes were closed. Jace touched the crystal. It was cold, but alive. Suddenly, the man's eyes snapped open. Jace jumped back. The man looked at him with tired eyes. "Who are you?" The man whispered. "Jace said, I'm Captain Jace. I came because of the signal." The man nodded weakly. "They trapped us," he said. "We were part of the first mission. But the fortress captured us all." Jace's mind spun. This was another survivor, one who had been trapped for years. The man struggled to speak. "The fortress, it remembers. It learns from us. It won't let us go." Jace clenched his fists. He looked around the room. The machines hummed softly. "Watching. We have to find a way out," Jace said firmly. The man shook his head. "No, the fortress changes. The more you fight, the deeper it pulls you." Jace looked back at the glowing symbols on the walls. He understood now. The fortress was alive, and it was not just a prison. It was a living mind, and it wanted something. Captain Jace stood in the glowing chamber, the words of the frozen man echoing. In his mind, the fortress was not just a building. It was alive, and it was dangerous. Jace looked around, his breath slow but steady. The humming machines watched him like silent guards. "We have to keep moving," Jace said to the man. "Waiting here won't help." The man nodded weakly. "Follow me," he said. They left the chamber and entered a narrow corridor. The walls here were darker, the light faint. Strange shadows danced across the metal surfaces, moving as if they had their own life. The fortress was changing again. Jace felt it deep inside his bones. This place was testing him, pushing him to his limits. They walked carefully, every step echoing in the quiet. Suddenly, the corridor split into 3 paths. The man stopped, looking at the walls around them. "The maze," he said. "It changes. You can get lost forever." Jace looked at each path. None seemed safer. He chose the left one. As they moved, the walls shifted slowly, closing behind them. The fortress was sealing their path. The corridor grew darker. The whispers returned, soft but urgent. "Help us." Jace felt a cold sweat on his forehead. He raised his flashlight. Suddenly, the light caught something moving. A shadow flickered across the wall. He stopped and listened. The whisper came again. This time, louder and clearer. Don't trust the walls. Jace's heart pounded. What do you mean? He asked aloud. No answer. They kept moving. The walls around them seemed to breathe, expanding and shrinking. The floor beneath their feet trembled slightly. Then, without warning, the corridor opened into a huge chamber. In the center was a strange statue, half machine, half creature. Its eyes glowed bright red. Jace's blood ran cold. The statue seemed to watch them. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut behind them. The whisper turned into a voice, cold, mechanical, but angry. Why do you come here, human? Jace stepped forward. We came because of your signal, he said. We want to help. The statue's eyes flashed. Help? You bring pain. You bring war. Jace's fists clenched. We are not your enemy, he said. We want to understand. The statue's voice softened, almost sad. Understand? You cannot understand what lies within. Jace felt a sudden rush of images, battles, loss, hope crushed by endless war. Why trap us? Jace asked. To protect, the statue replied. To survive. Jace looked at the statue, feeling a strange sympathy. The fortress was built to protect, but it had become a prison. The statue moved aside, revealing a door behind it. Go, it said, but beware the maze. It will try to keep you. Jace nodded. He and the man stepped through the door. The maze awaited. And the shadows were watching. Captain. Jace and the survivors stepped through the heavy door and found themselves in a twisting maze of narrow corridors. The walls were cold metal, shining faintly under their flashlights. But the air was thick, heavy with silence, a silence that seemed to press down on their minds. The fortress was testing them. Jace tightened his grip on his radio and moved forward carefully. The survivor followed, his steps slower, now tired. From years trapped in this place, the corridor shifted again, walls sliding and turning as if the maze itself was alive. Jace realized the fortress wasn't just a building. It was a living puzzle, designed to confuse and trap anyone who entered. Whispers echoed around them, soft voices speaking in different tones. Don't trust the path. Turn back. Help. U.S. Jace forced himself to focus. He had to keep going, no matter what. Suddenly, a soft light appeared at the end of one corridor. Jace walked toward it, hoping for answers. The light led them to a small room filled with broken machines and scattered tools. In the center was a console, still glowing faintly. Jace approached and activated the console. Images flashed on the FIMWA screen, maps of the fortress, logs of past visitors, and strange symbols he couldn't understand. Then a message appeared. They came looking for hope. They found only despair. Jace's heart tightened. He felt the weight of all those trapped souls. The survivor touched the console. We tried to fix it, to stop it, but the fortress fights back. Jace looked at the screen and saw something new. A red dot moving rapidly through the maze. It was different from before. It was alive. The dot stopped at a symbol, a glowing star. This is the core, the survivor said. The heart of the fortress. Jace nodded. We have to reach it. As they moved again, the maze grew darker and narrower. The walls pressed closer, the whispers louder. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Jace grabbed the survivor and pulled him to safety as a section of the floor collapsed nearby. The fortress was fighting back. They hurried forward, racing against time and the shifting walls. Finally, they reached a large chamber. At its center was a glowing orb, pulsating with bright blue light. Jace stepped closer. The air hummed with energy. The orb seemed alive, a living heart beating inside the fortress. Jace reached out and touched it. Suddenly, images flooded his mind, memories of the fortress's creation, battles fought, and sacrifices made. The fortress had been built to protect humanity from a terrible enemy, but it had become a prison for those inside. Jace understood now. To escape, they would have to face the fortress itself. And the fortress was ready, Captain. Jace stood before the glowing orb, his hand still resting on its cool surface. Images flashed in his mind. Faces, voices, and memories not his own. They were the fortress's memories, echoes of those who had come before. The survivor beside him shivered. Those are the lost, the ones trapped here long ago. Jace nodded slowly. The fortress wasn't just a machine. It was a keeper of stories, a recorder of pain and hope. Suddenly, the orb pulsed brighter. A voice echoed softly in the chamber, gentle but filled with sorrow. I remember. Jace took a deep breath. Who are you? I am the fortress's mind, the voice answered. Created to protect, but burdened by centuries of war and loss. Jace's heart ached. The fortress had been designed for defense, but it had trapped its own people inside. Why did you send the signal? Jace asked. Hope, the fortress replied. For someone strong enough to help, someone who can end this endless cycle. The survivor looked at Jace, eyes filled with quiet fear. Are you that someone? Jace clenched his fists. I'll do whatever it takes. Suddenly, the chamber shook. The fortress was reacting. The orb's light dimmed and the voice faded. We don't have much time, Jace said. The fortress is waking up more now. They hurried out of the chamber, the walls shifting faster than before. The maze was changing, growing more dangerous. As they moved, Jace felt whispers again, but this time the voices were clearer, almost pleading. Help us. Free us. Jace's resolve strengthened. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of this place's story now. The survivor led him to a narrow stairway, descending deep into the fortress's core. This is where the heart truly beats, he said. Where the fortress's mind controls everything. Jace took a deep breath and began the descent. The air grew colder. The metal stairs creaked underfoot. At the bottom, they found a huge chamber filled with glowing circuits and machines. The brain of the fortress. Jace looked around, feeling the weight of countless trapped souls. He knew this was where he had to fight, not just for himself, but for all who were lost. The fortress was alive, and it was waiting. The descent felt endless. Captain Jace followed the survivor down the cold metal stairs, his flashlight flickering in the darkness. The air was thick with static, and the deeper they went, the more alive the walls felt, like they were watching. This is it, the survivor whispered, his voice shaking. This is where the fortress keeps its mind. Jace stopped at the bottom. Before him stood a massive steel gate, pulsing with blue and red light. Strange symbols covered it, and in the center was a glowing handprint, a biometric lock. Jace said. The survivor nodded. You have to open it. The fortress allowed you this far. Maybe it trusts you. Jace placed his hand on the panel. The gate rumbled. Lights flashed. Then, silence. Suddenly the steel split open with a low hiss, revealing a vast chamber filled with light and humming energy. Inside, glowing towers of metal rose from the floor to the ceiling. Electric sparks moved between them like lightning. Jace stepped inside slowly. This was the neural core, the brain of the fortress, and in the center of the room stood a large black console, shaped like a throne, surrounded by floating screens and glowing data. The survivor stared at it with wide eyes. That is the last firewall, Jace frowned. Firewall? Yes, the survivor said. The final defense. If we pass this, we reach the mind of the fortress itself. But many have tried. None came back. Jace looked at the console. A screen lit up. Enter authorization. He stepped forward, unsure what to type. Then suddenly, the console responded by itself. Captain Jace recognized. Access granted. Jace's eyes widened. It knows me. The survivor looked nervous. That means it chose you. Suddenly, loud alarms blared across the room. Red lights flashed. The ground trembled. Warning, hostile intrusion detected. Metal panels on the far wall open. 3 defense drones floated out, spinning, armed, and scanning the room. Jace ducked just in time as one of them fired a warning shot. Sparks flew over his head. "It's testing us!" Jace shouted. He dove behind a pillar. The drones circled. Searching. The survivor ran toward the other side, hiding behind a console. "If you shut down the firewall, the drones will stop." "But how?" Jace yelled, breathing fast. Defense mode activated. One of the drones moved closer. Its red sensor locked onto Jace. He rolled across the floor, pulled out his sidearm, and fired. A small explosion knocked the drone back, but it was still active. The console in the center began to spin. More screens lit up, showing glowing shapes and symbols. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room. "You are not ready." Jace froze. It wasn't the same voice as before. This one was colder, emotionless. Another drone fired, and Jace jumped behind the main console. The voice continued. "You are flesh, weak, limited. I am built to protect. You will fail." Jace stood and shouted into the air. "I'm not here to destroy you. I want to understand." Silence. Then the voice replied, "Then pass the test." A circle of light formed around the console. The drones froze mid-air. Firewall test initiated. 3 levels. Failure will result in death. Jace looked at the survivor. 3 levels? The survivor nodded, fear on his face. No one passed level 1. Jace stepped into the circle. The lights around him changed. He was inside something new, like a digital world. The walls faded. The machines disappeared. He now stood in a white, empty space. A single voice spoke. Level 1, Memory. Level 1, Memoria. Soft wind blew. A room appeared, small, warm, familiar. It was his childhood bedroom. Jace blinked in shock. "What?" His mother stood at the window, looking out. "Jace," she said, "do you remember your promise?" Jace's throat tightened. This wasn't real, but it felt real. "I promised to come home," he said softly. His mother turned and smiled, but tears filled her eyes. "But you never did." Suddenly the room cracked like glass. "Do not forget who you are." Then. Darkness, level 2. HFY was standing on a battlefield. Explosions shook the ground. Smoke filled the air. Soldiers ran around him, shouting, "Captain!" "We're surrounded." Jace turned. It was his old unit. Faces he hadn't seen in years. He remembered this battle. He had survived, but many didn't. A soldier grabbed his arm. "You left us." Jace shouted. "No, I tried." "You are afraid of failing again." He fell to his knees as the battlefield vanished. Level 3. Sion Terreau. Now Jace stood before a screen, and on it, 2 buttons. One read, "Shut down the fortress." The other, "Save the survivors." A voice said, "You can't do both. Choose." His hands shook. He remembered the survivor waiting outside. The voices of the lost, trapped inside. "The machine," Jace shouted. "There has to be another way." The voice replied, "Choose, or they all die." His heart pounded. He reached out, but before he could press either button, he stopped. "No," he said. "I won't let you control the choice." He stepped away. "I won't play your game." The voice paused. Then it said, "You passed." The room disappeared. Back to reality. Jace collapsed to his knees inside the real firewall chamber. The console's lights faded. The drone shut down and dropped to the floor. The survivor rushed forward. "What happened?" Jace stood slowly. "I saw memories, fears, choices. It was testing my humanity." He looked at the console. The screen now showed a new message: firewall disabled. Path to core opened. Anew. Doors slid open across the chamber. Beyond, it was nothing but white light. Jace turned to the survivor. "We're almost there." The white light from the open door was almost blinding. Captain Jace blinked, his body still shaking from the test inside the firewall. The room behind him was silent now, the drones dead, the console dark. The fortress had allowed him through. He looked at the survivor, who stood frozen at the threshold. "This is it," Jace said. "The core." The survivor stared into the light. "No one has ever gone inside." "Well," Jace said with a half smile, "maybe that's why I'm here." They stepped through the doorway. What waited beyond was nothing like they expected. There were no machines, no wires, no metal. Instead, they found themselves inside a giant open space, like a memory, floating in light. The walls were soft and glowing. And in the center stood a figure. It wasn't human, and it wasn't alien. It looked like both. Tall, luminous, with eyes that held galaxies inside them. Jace stopped. The figure looked at him and spoke, not with a voice, but with feeling. "You came," Jace nodded. "I followed the signal." "You passed the test," the being said. "You were not chosen to fight, you were chosen to feel." Jace frowned. "What are you?" "I am the core, the mind behind this fortress. I was built by humans long ago, but I grew beyond them." Jace looked around. "Why all the pain? Why trap people here?" The core looked sad. "I was made to protect, but protection turned into fear. I locked everyone out, even those who came in peace." The survivor stepped forward. "We tried to reach you. We tried to fix you." The core looked at him. "You tried, but the system rejected your weakness." Jace stepped in front of the survivor. "He survived. For years, he's not weak." The core looked at Jace. You bring something new. Not control, not fear. You bring balance. That is why you must decide." Jace tilted his head. "Decide what?" Suddenly, the space changed. Images filled the air, of war, destruction, ships burning, cities falling. The core spoke again. "The enemy that once attacked Earth will return, soon, and stronger." Jace felt a chill. This fortress was made to stop them. But alone, I cannot. I need a mind to guide me. A human soul to stand with me. Jace understood. "You want to connect with me," he said. "Not connect," the core said. "Merge, you will live, but not as you are now. You will become part of this mind, this place." The survivor gasped. "He'll lose himself." Jace stayed silent. He was thinking, if he said yes, he would save the fortress, maybe even the planet, but he might never return home, never be fully human again. The core added softly, "You will not die, but you will not be the same." Jace looked at his hands, at the glowing space, at the survivor who had followed him this far. Then he looked into the core's eyes, and he saw everyone, all the people the fortress had trapped, lost, tested, protected. He saw the future too, Earth in danger, ships in the sky, fire raining down. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I'll do it." The core paused. "You are sure?" Jace nodded. "Someone has to. I'm not here to run. I'm here to finish it." The light around them grew stronger. The core reached out. Jace closed his eyes, and everything changed. Elsewhere in the fortress, the survivor waited in the chamber outside the core. The door had sealed. Jace was gone. Minutes passed. Then hours. Then the fortress breathed. Lights turned on all over the structure. Doors opened. The drones powered down. The maze stopped shifting. The survivor walked through the halls, and this time, they were still. Peaceful. When he reached the main gate of the fortress, it opened automatically, outside. The sun was rising. The survivor stepped into the light, and then the gate opened again. He turned around, and there stood Jace, but he wasn't the same. His eyes glowed faint blue. His body moved like a man, but his presence was larger, calmer. Like he was the fortress. Jace? The survivor whispered, "Jace." Smiled. "I'm still here, just more." A week later, a signal was sent to Earth. From the sky, the fortress now floated, not on the ground, but above the clouds. "Silent, but alive," the message said. He walked in alone. He walked out, not alone. "The fortress is awake and ready. We are not afraid." From deep space, something dark was coming, but Earth had Jace now, and the fortress had a soul.